For 40 years, the citizens of Lilliput have waited for a giant hero to save them. When a regular man arrives, they're disappointed and demand his execution. Gulliver, an adventurous young man, had once saved Lilliput from their enemy, Blefuscu. Now, a new prophecy claims he will return. Excited, the citizens build a giant gate expecting a towering hero. Meanwhile, Gulliver, busy with risky adventures, steals a crown from a palace before receiving an urgent message from Lilliput. He rushes to help, but is shocked when the people no longer recognize him. They question his identity, and the king, now grown, demands proof in a strange court where he plays every role. Confused, Gulliver realizes everything has changed since his last visit, leaving him to wonder how a baby king grew so quickly in just a year. The king is perplexed by Gulliver's claims, insisting he should be a giant, capable of building walls and monuments alone. Frustrated, he decides to imprison Gulliver for not meeting their expectations. Gulliver insists he has always been normal and questions the lack of lawyers in this court. In response, the king dons a lawyer's costume and suggests execution, showing his complete disregard for the law. When Gulliver asks about a jury, the king simply pretends to be one and supports the execution. Just then, a young girl in the audience steps forward, claiming Gulliver comes from a family of giants but stopped growing due to an illness, making him a dwarf among them. Impressed, Gulliver plays along, sharing his struggles as a dwarf, hoping to gain sympathy. However, the girl only postpones the execution to the next day. Desperate, Gulliver pleads for life in prison instead, even offering to give away his wealth, but no one listens, and he is thrown into prison with his pet Squeak. Meanwhile, Generalissimo Blefuscu learns of Gulliver's return and plans to invade Lilliput, believing the absence of a giant hero will make it easier. Back in prison, Gulliver endures ridicule from the jailers. As they leave for lunch, he sends Squeak to find an escape route. However, Squeak gets distracted by a tempting aroma from the food storage and begins eating a vast collection of cheese, forgetting about Gulliver's escape plan. Worried that Squeak is in trouble, Gulliver attempts to break the prison lock but accidentally injures his finger instead. The king arrives, and Gulliver pretends to act normal. Quickly realizing he can manipulate the not-so-clever king, he compliments the king on his multitasking skills as both judge and lawyer and praises his prison as a luxurious resting place. Intrigued, the king wants to experience prison life himself. Gulliver suggests they switch places, and the king eagerly enters the cell, handing over the dungeon keys. Gulliver seizes the keys and searches for Squeak, only to encounter Marcy, the girl who acted as his lawyer. She claims to be on his side and says she advised the king to delay his execution to give him time to escape. Skeptical, Gulliver continues looking for Squeak. Soon, Squeak returns with food, and together, they search for an exit. However, the dungeon is designed to be inescapable. Gulliver eventually agrees to let Marcy help, and she pushes a wall that opens the gate to freedom. Meanwhile, the king realizes he's been tricked and orders his guards to catch Gulliver, offering a reward for information about him. The royal guards find Gulliver in the streets, and he and Marcy rush to the harbor where his ship is docked. Unfortunately, the guards are patrolling there as well. Gulliver hesitates, needing to meet someone. Marcy offers to help, asking if he wants to see his friend Freelock, as she knows where he lives. Gulliver is puzzled by how Marcy knows his friend, but she only asks him to follow her. Upon reaching a valley, he's surprised by the rapid growth of trees in just a year. He inquires about it, but Marcy suggests they rest as night approaches. They gather sticks for a fire, and as they prepare to sleep, Marcy warns him about impending snow. Gulliver dismisses her concern as a joke, sharing stories of his recent challenges. Marcy stares at the bonfire, recalling the laws of Hohenheim's land that forbade burning sticks. This triggers Gulliver's memories of his journey there, where he encountered kind talking horses. After sharing the tale, he falls asleep, only to wake up in a snow-covered forest, realizing Marcy was serious. She explains that the king has invented Year Day, causing 1 year to pass every week, speeding up time in Lilliput. As a result, 40 years have gone by since Gulliver promised to return. The former king expedited time because he didn't want to wait for Gulliver, leading to a rapid succession of seasons. Most of those who knew Gulliver are now dead or old, and the younger generation expects him to be a giant. What was meant to be a miracle now feels like a disaster, with citizens looking to Gulliver for a solution. Confused and regretting his promise, Gulliver heads to see Freelock, only to find that he has aged significantly. Marcy reveals she is Freelock's daughter. Freelock doesn't recognize Gulliver and scolds Marcy for bringing a criminal to his home. Gulliver reminds him of their past battles, but Freelock insists he must adhere to the new king's decree that Gulliver must be a giant. Gulliver grows angry, questioning their friendship. Marcy explains that Freelock faced ridicule and punishment for insisting on the truth, but remained loyal to Gulliver. When she was born, threats against her prompted Freelock to accept Gulliver's new identity as a giant. Feeling ashamed, Gulliver starts to sing a song they once made together. Hearing the lyrics, Freelock joins in and embraces him. However, their reunion is cut short when the royal guards arrive, outnumbering them. They capture Freelock and take Gulliver and Marcy along with Squeak to the town square for execution, where citizens gather to witness the event. The king delivers a dull speech before donning the executioner's costume to kill Gulliver. However, the eye holes aren't quite aligned properly, causing him to swing blindly, giving Gulliver time to converse with Marcy. Gulliver realizes Marcy was the one who invited him through a letter when Freelock wasn't himself. She believed in him when no one else did, and he has no regrets about coming, especially for meeting her. Frustrated, the king discards the costume. But the execution is interrupted by officers from Blefuscu, demanding the king of Lilliput surrender or face invasion. The king, unwilling to back down, claims that their giant hero has arrived. The officers report back to Blefuscu, who remains unfazed and orders his army to advance. Meanwhile, the king invites Gulliver to a lavish brunch and requests his help to defeat Blefuscu's forces. In return, Gulliver asks for his friend's release and a rewritten decree proclaiming him the true hero. The king agrees, releasing Squeak and Marcy and announcing Gulliver's arrival. However, the citizens remain skeptical, insisting he fulfill the prophecies about the legendary giant, including fixing the water supply and repairing the broken wall. Freelock advises Gulliver to complete these tasks to prove his heroism. Gulliver agrees and plans the wall reconstruction. After finishing, he collaborates with Freelock to blow up the dam with gunpowder, restoring the water supply. Once he proves himself, Gulliver gathers the citizens and emphasizes that their collective effort made everything possible. He explains that true giants are defined by their big hearts and good deeds, asserting that anyone can be a giant with the courage to achieve great things. Gulliver's speech transforms the citizens' mindset, and they begin to cheer for him. Once peace returns, he seizes a moment to talk to Marcy, who apologizes for getting him into this mess. Gulliver, however, is grateful to have met her and Freelock. Just as he's about to confess his love, they're interrupted by royal guards announcing Blefuscu's army has arrived to invade. Gulliver urges the king to lead the soldiers, but the king flees to save himself. Taking charge, Gulliver orders the soldiers to return to their posts. As night falls, fear spreads among the citizens, causing many to flee, while the remaining soldiers lack weapons, leaving Lilliput vulnerable. Gulliver and Freelock must strategize together like they once did. When Blefuscu's army arrives, Freelock announces that Gulliver is willing to spare their lives if they agree to a deal. Blefuscu, intrigued, accepts the offer. Gulliver steps forward, and although Blefuscu laughs at his size, Gulliver claims to possess magical powers and challenges him to a duel for control of Lilliput. Blefuscu, tempted by the chance to defeat a giant, agrees. The next morning, they prepare to fight. Gulliver uses clever tactics to distract Blefuscu, leading him to drop his sword in defeat. Just as Gulliver begins to celebrate, Blefuscu surprises him by donning metal armor and attacking. Suddenly, dark clouds gather, signaling the start of Year Day. Freelock amplifies his voice, while Gulliver pretends to control the weather. The rain and snow damage Blefuscu's armor, prompting him to flee. Believing Gulliver to be a powerful magician, once the threat is gone, the king returns to claim credit. But the citizens see through his lies. They demand better leadership and choose Gulliver, but he believes Freelock deserves the role for enduring years of deceit. Freelock accepts the honor and vows to abolish Year Day. Finally, Gulliver confesses his love to Marcy and takes her on an adventure to explore the world together. This fantasy film attempts to deliver a family-friendly adventure, but falls short in several key areas, particularly in its design and production choices. The most glaring issue is inconsistent aesthetic throughout the movie. The costumes, hairstyles, and set designs seem to pull from a wide range of historical periods, from the 17th to the early 20th centuries, without any cohesive vision. This jarring mix is distracting and suggests a lack of care in the design stage. While the target audience of young children may not notice or care, these inconsistencies might irritate older viewers. The animation quality is also noticeably low, though this seems to be more of a result of budget limitations than a lack of effort from the team. The production suffers from clunky pacing, with obvious filler content to pad the runtime. Musical numbers feel awkwardly shoehorned into the movie, as 2 songs are neither enough to make it a musical nor too few to ignore. The film would have benefited from committing fully to either a musical or a straightforward drama. Even the editing leaves much to be desired, with numerous black screen transitions that disrupt the flow. These moments are so apparent that even a 5-year-old noticed and commented on them, an unfortunate sign of the film's technical shortcomings. That said, the movie does manage to present positive themes, especially toward the end. The message that being a giant comes from good deeds, bravery, and ingenuity, rather than physical size, is heartfelt and uplifting. These moral lessons are appropriate for young children and come without much negative content, save for some slapstick violence. Ultimately, while younger audiences may enjoy the whimsical nature of the story, parents and older viewers are likely to find themselves alternating between boredom and annoyance. The film struggles with basic production issues and fails to engage fully, leaving much to be desired despite its well-intentioned message. Thank you very much for watching the whole video. And if you have a movie or TV show that you want us to cover, just comment it down below. We'll make a video of it in the future. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out our playlist for more recaps.